Hey guys, it's HoppingHammy, and first of all, I wanted to say a huge thanks to everyone who took the time to watch, share, or participate in my last video that was addressing concerns to the hamster community. You all left such good input and feedback in the comments section, and I was grateful to read your insight and thoughtful comments of the experiences and observations you've had in the world of pet care and hamster keeping. I also noticed that the majority of folks agreed that this is a problem and it needs to change, so I really hope none of us forget about this topic and we continue to make strides towards kindness and positive adjustments in how we teach others going forward. If each person does their part in being kind and also courageously speaks up against bullying when others in the community aren't sharing advice in a respectful manner, I believe it will go a long way in changing the culture and atmosphere here. Let's aim to be the one pet care community online who is known for being kind and welcoming, but also helpful and educational. So thank you guys once again, and you all are the best. So now getting into today's video, there's many things I've been wanting to share with you guys about Sprocket because I feel it might be helpful in showing new or first-time hamster owners especially how each hamster is completely different and there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to hamster care, so it's good to find what works best for your particular hamster. The first thing I'll mention is I believe Sprocket has a nut allergy, which is something that's completely new to me because I've never had a hamster with this before. So when Sprocket first came home and was in his temporary tank, my husband and I were hand feeding him every night, and usually it was his favorite items such as nuts and sunflower seeds, along with fresh veggies. I think it was a couple of nights into him being home with us when my husband was distracting Sprocket with a piece of cashew from his food mix while I was on the other side of the tank wiping out his wheel. I heard my husband say something like, "What are you doing there, Sprocket?" So I looked over and I saw Sprocket opening his mouth really wide repeatedly as if he was choking. I felt panicked because I didn't know what to do if he was choking, but eventually he stopped and he finished nibbling the rest of the nut. I didn't think too much of the incident other than wondering if perhaps he just swallowed it wrong, but my husband tossed out the idea that perhaps he has a nut allergy, so I decided to pull his cashews out just to be safe because it was really scary. So a few nights later, I was giving him a peanut and he did the exact same thing, which led me to believe he has an allergy to both cashews and peanuts. And peanuts are a known allergen food, but I just have never had a hamster with an allergy before. So I decided to replace the lost fat from his food mix with pieces of walnut instead. And I watched him very carefully for about 2 or so weeks, and he was totally fine and he was able to eat the walnuts with no further issues. Fast forward to one night in his new setup when I observed him eating a walnut from his dish, and he did the same thing once more. This clip only shows it very briefly because I just happened to be recording him eating when he did this, but I quickly removed the walnut as soon as I noticed it and decided to cut out any and all forms of nuts out of his diet because I don't want to risk having his throat close up or anything serious like that because I've heard of that type of thing happening before, at least with people. So I've been supplementing with extra seeds for fat such as sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, flax and sesame seeds, and chia seeds. And for the past month and a half or so, he hasn't done the choking thing at all, which is a big relief to me, so he seems to be fine with any and all types of seeds. Now, during all of this happening, I should also mention 2 other major issues that arose. The first is that he developed a bald spot on his neck, and I remembered in past how Yodel, another long-haired hamster of mine, had the exact same bald spot in the same area, and I don't think I ever shared about this, I can't remember, but somehow I had figured out that he needed much more fat in his diet, like way higher than any of my other Syrians did, and as soon as his fat was increased, the hair grew in and his bald spot went away. So I did the same thing with Sprocket, and thankfully his bald patch has also grown in now, and his fur looks very luxurious and thick, and it was so cute when the fur started growing in. He had these tiny little like curly sprouts of fur. It was really cute. But I just wanted to mention that if any of you have a similar thing happen with your long-haired hamster specifically, I wonder if this is a thing with some of them, that a bald spot doesn't always automatically mean they have mites, but it can be an issue related to their diet. Now, the last and final issue I'll share with you guys is that I learned through my nighttime security camera, which I haven't shown you guys yet, but I learned that Sprocket has a major wheel obsession to the point where he will run on it for 6 hours straight, barely even stopping to grab food or water or do anything in between. So I started to feel concerned that it's not natural or healthy for a young growing hamster to be getting so much exercise with little break in between. Like, if a hamster was in the wild, it's true that they may sometimes travel a great distance if needed for food, but I don't believe it would be non-stop running without breaks or stopping to sniff and explore or do other natural behaviors, and they may not always do that every night. They might stick close by to their burrow. I also noticed that Sprocket seemed to be having issues putting weight on in a healthy manner, and even though he probably has looked very large and fluffy on camera, in real life, underneath all the fluff, when I feel him and I see him, he actually has looked a bit on the frail and small side to me. Now, pair this issue with the earlier problems I mentioned about his nut allergies and fur loss, and also him acting sleepy many times during exploring, and you can imagine I've had a very difficult time limiting his activity and getting enough fat, protein, and calories in him to properly grow. He's also an extremely picky hamster, and he won't eat most protein foods such as egg, chicken, cheese, mealworms. I haven't tried ground beef yet, but I think he probably won't be liking that either. So I made the decision a while back to limit his wheel time to 2 nights with the wheel, 1 night without, and then 1 night with and 2 nights without before starting the same type of pattern over again. This has been a major help in allowing him to gradually gain some weight, and he started off at 123 grams and is now up to around 140, which is much better weight to be at, in my opinion. I don't think he has too much growing left to do, if any, but he definitely looks healthier now than he did initially. I've been hesitant to share this info about his wheel with you all because I know most hamster owners consider a wheel an essential, and don't get me wrong, I do as well. However, if you have a younger hamster who is obsessed with the wheel and is also struggling with food pickiness or allergies or gaining weight, then I think it's more important to address that issue and worry less about their wheel. Another factor is that Sprocket has a very large enclosure to explore and run around in, which he runs all over the place on the nights he's without the wheel. I've watched him on the camera, so it's not like he's stuck in a tiny cage with no way to get exercise. I'm also considering attaching the top tank for him to have a second area to run and play in, but this gets into a whole other topic, and I will make a separate video on this in future, but for now, I just wanted to share some of the issues I've been dealing with in trying to keep Sprocket healthy with his different quirks and allergies. He's doing very well, and I'm so relieved to have a large area for him to live in, because otherwise I would feel terrible to remove his wheel if he was still like in his 40-gallon breeder tank or whatever, but He gets a chance to explore and to dig around in various substrates and to climb things, so it's been good for him to do that on the off nights where he doesn't have a wheel. Anyways, if any of you have any thoughts or input you'd like to share on this or your own experiences, please feel free. And I forgot to mention that I did seek advice from 2 different individuals in the community who are very respected and wise to ask their thoughts on Sprocket's wheel behavior, and both thought it sounded fair and reasonable to rotate with allowing him to have it and then removing it. I also asked my family their input and they agreed it was a good plan as well. Now, I'm hoping as he gets older, he might become less obsessed with it and tone it down a little bit, but for now it's something I will continue doing in order to maintain his health and weight. And just to be clear, I'm not sharing this to try and encourage anybody else to do the same thing. I'm just sharing this is what I've had to do for Sprocket and that it can sometimes be an issue. So thank you guys for listening to my long spiel, and I have a little more to share on this in a future video, but for now I'll end this and say thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and for all of your support and encouragement. It means so much to me, and Sprocket and I will see you in our next video. Bye bye!